I'm J.R. Church. Welcome to today's analysis of the news. In Genesis chapter 1, beginning in verse 14, on the fourth day of creation, God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. On the fourth day of creation, the sun was created. Fourth day. Now, according to the rabbis, that occurred on a Wednesday. Don't know that it did, but that's what they say. So every 28 years, they say, the sun returns to its origin, to the place where it was in the universe, where it was created. And so it is called Birkat HaChamah. And this year it occurred today. Last evening at sunset, and then this morning at sunrise, there was a group of Jews there to recite a rare sun blessing at Masada's ancient synagogue on top of Masada. And according to this article, this occurs every 28 years, but coincides with Passover only 3 times in all of history. The other two were, number 1, about the time of the redemption of the Jews from Egypt, and number 2, the second time was at the redemption of the Jews from Persia in Queen Esther's day. Historically, the holiday coinciding with Passover is associated with the redemption of the Jews, and that makes today, April 8th, 2009, only the third time in history that the holiday has coincided with Passover. So, the question is, does this portend a redemption of the Jews as well? Well, there is going to be another redemption of the Jews when Jesus Christ appears in power and great glory. However, it must be preceded by Jacob's trouble, what we call the tribulation period. So, for the first time in 2,000 years, the ancient synagogue atop the Judean desert fortress of Masada will ring out at dawn with the rare blessing of the sun. The blessing, recited only once in every 28 years, will be uttered by Jews around the world at the first appearance of the sun on the morning that precedes the Passover Seder. Tonight is Passover, the Passover meal, and the Jewish families all over the world, after sunset, will be observing the evening Passover meal. So, it's fascinating, I think, that it occurs today. So remember, today is the blessing of the sun. Secondly, the second news item, a magnitude earthquake of 6.9 has hit an area at sea near the Kuril Islands. It's between northern Japan and Russia. So we had the earthquake the other day in Italy, and now today a 6.9 on the other side of the world. I would call that in various places, wouldn't you? Here's another interesting article, somewhat sad. Hidden dangers of genetically modified food. This comes from Delaware Online. And let's see, this other one comes from my friend Jim Bramlett about the sun. And this one comes from Irish Tea. So, our Millennium Weekend website. This one from Delaware Online. Listen to it. Genetically modified food crops grown illegally have called attention to genetic modification in our midst, but few understand its impact. Genetically modified crops entered the United States food supply without notice or labeling in 1996. Unlike traditional breeding methods, genetic modification causes the genetic species barrier. A, quote, gene gun, end quote, literally blasts altered foreign species genes or transgenes at host cells hoping that the DNA in some cells is a hit and the insertion, quote, takes, end quote. Adjacent genes may be damaged or removed by the process, and up to 5% of the DNA spontaneously mutates in unpredictable ways. Now, results include bacteria genes in corn and cotton, human genes in corn, spermicidal genes in corn, daffodil genes in rice, that is vitamin A, and spatter genes in goats, virus genes in pharmaceuticals, and so on. Despite the biotech's claim of safety, farmers using genetically modified feed report thousands of sick, sterile, and dead livestock. Studies of genetically modified fed animals reveal lower birth weights and higher infant death rates, organ damage, reproductive failures, infertility, damaged immune systems, and abnormal digestive cell growth. The United Kingdom soy allergies increased 50% soon after genetically modified soy was introduced. Filipino villagers living near cornfields became seriously ill during pollination. Some animals died after eating the corn. In India, many sheep and oxen died after grazing on genetically modified cotton plants. Thousands of now impoverished Indian cotton farmers have committed suicide. A German farmer reported some of his cows died after eating genetically modified corn, and others report that dairy cows injected with genetically modified bovine growth hormone have more illnesses and die sooner than non-genetically modified counterparts. Rats refusing to eat genetically modified tomatoes were force-fed. Some developed stomach lesions or died within 2 weeks. Yet the tomatoes were approved for the market by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. In 1995, highly respected gene researcher, a gentleman by the name of Arpad, P-U-S-Z-T-A-I, Puztad, I guess, found that rats in the laboratory, that their offspring had weakened immune systems and smaller livers, hearts, and brains. He felt it very unfair to use our fellow citizens as guinea pigs. As has happened to others finding genetically modified dangers, he was fired and his research confiscated and discredited, although his findings were later published in a publication called The Lancet, an international journal of medical science and practice. And then, here's the scariest part of all. Researchers at the Friedman School of Nutrition, Science, and Policy have come under fire for a study involving feeding genetically modified food to our children. In February, a group of 32 scientists from around the world sent an open letter to the school citing code violations and inadequate preparatory research. A Wales-based group against genetically modified food coordinated the initiative. The study, which took place last year, studied the extent to which genetically modified form of rice, known as golden rice, can be used to combat vitamin A deficiency, which may be responsible for 500,000 cases of blindness each year. Golden rice is fortified with vitamin A. According to 32 scientists who signed the letter, the study violated the Nuremberg Code, a set of ethical research principles for experiments conducted on humans, because it was conducted on children between the ages of 6 and 10 and did not take into account the risks associated with excessive vitamin A in the body. Now, folks, we live in precarious times. All of the seeds throughout the United States, no matter what produce it is, are being genetically modified so that the big seed companies can get patents on those seeds and thereby being able to charge farmers for using their seed and making it against the law to use normal seeds. Yes, that's what's going on in the United States and obviously India and various other places, Germany, throughout Europe and England. These things are going on. And one of these days, According to the fourth horseman of the apocalypse, a fourth of the population of the planet will die. Perhaps because, in part at least, by genetically modified foods. I'm J.R. Church. We'll see you again tomorrow with our analysis of the news.